There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
This is a really goth episode.
Is it really?
This is a very goth episode. I hope you have your lace gloves. Can you imagine how much lace it would take to cover Kissel in order for him to fit into
you
a
just
real...
reminded me of a story. When I was in high school, we wanted to go steal clothes at Hot Topic, but they didn't have my size. So I literally could not steal the stupid Rob Zombie shirt that I wanted to get because they only had larges and they knew I was a double extra large, and that was an embarrassing day. I literally too big to steal.
Too fat to be goth? That would be the name of your fucking life story.
Oh my God. All right. Welcome to the last podcast on the left, everyone. I am Ben Kissel with Marcus Parks.
Hello.
All right. And beautiful Henry Zabrowski over there.
There's just something about Dennis Nilsen that made me toss on some, like I toss on some Sisters of Mercy. I know that's technically not his era.
No.
But there's something so goth about his shit that I'm just like twisting back and forth, listen to Suey and the Banshees. Is it Susie?
It's Susie.
Susie and the Banshees.
Susie and the Banshees? Man, just so sad, like hanging, like dancing like Linus from Peanuts. Which one? Who did the slouchy dance?
I love Linus. All right. So this guy, he is goth and he's also Scottish.
Wait, he's Scottish.
I didn't realize
don't
that could be
know.
a combo.
I don't know if he's goth. I don't know if anyone who loves prog rock as much as he did, it could be goth.
Well, they like to kick a lot. So let's talk about it. For today's episode, we're covering this dude, Dennis Nilsen.
So Dennis Nilsen was a Scottish serial killer who murdered 15 men in London from 1978 to 1983. Ooh. Although Nilsen is oftentimes known as England's Jeffrey Dahmer, Nilsen himself said that the comparison is superficial at best.
Let's just say Mr. Dahmer, obviously did horrible crimes, but he had that X factor.
Sure.
He had that something special. He had that something else. Not saying that Dennis Nilsen is not a perfect snowflake in his own world,
right.
As someone who to be heralded in his own world of serial killerdom.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Dahmer never bowed to the Queen.
Yeah, he was never a subject. He was a true American patriot who, through the freedoms afforded by this country,
Absolutely.
rented an apartment and turned it into a hellscape for those poor young Filipino men.
That is his 29th Amendment right. It's not done yet, but I'm going to write it in there.
Oh, yes. Both were gay men who murdered out of loneliness and kept the bodies for extended periods of time. But Nilsen was not a cannibal. He did not mutilate bodies for pleasure, nor did he keep trophies of his victims as Dahmer did.
It's a funny way to say dicks. Is it a trophy, Mr. Dahmer?
Yeah, if I were to just take off my pants and just go, in front of Natalie and be like, and here's my most improved player trophy and pointing towards my penis. I don't know if that would help
No one
me.
wants to think about that.
Well, in fact, in some ways, Nilsen's crimes are creepier, as his murders are, in their own way, more romantic. Because he's like a TV character come to life. A very shallow one, but a TV character nevertheless.
Okay.
He is a paler version of a vampire than we've seen.
Wow.
He is, I would compare him to a vampire. He is very romantic. It's very much atmospheric, and it's true. And that's where the creepy factor does come in.
Right.
It's really just when you start reading the books about Dennis Nilsen and getting into his interior life. And a part of it is the same Mark David Chapman thing that we were talking about in the last couple episodes, which is the idea of like some people just have the most dark, cryptic fantasies going on in the back of their head, and you just wouldn't even know.
Yeah, absolutely not. The Monster Squad vampire, a little too fat. I want a thinner vampire for some reason.
Well, Nilsen's victims were men picked up from pubs, some gay, some not, as that didn't really matter to Nilsen.
Really?
His MO was to meet them, bring them back to his place for more booze or just shelter for the night, and when the moment was right, he'd strangle them.
Interesting. So instead of PBRs like Dahmer, he was drinking Boddingtons. And unlike it being at 4 o'clock in the morning bar close, I think it's like 10 p.m. in the UK. So it was a fairly early time to be kidnapping folks.
Dennis Nilsen was a rum and coke man.
No kidding.
Yep, you love his Bacardi and Coke, and it's everyone else who was drinking that warm UK beer, which is very strange.
I like a good Boddington.
Well, after he killed them, he'd keep the bodies for months, treating them like company or cuddle buddies until the decomposition set in too much, and he'd have to dispose of them in increasingly disturbing ways the more the bodies piled up.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is like, so it's like sort of his version of a body pillow, but it's an actual human body.
Well, the way he would put it is, we'll get obviously deeper into details, that he'd black out and he'd just wake up in the morning and the dude would be dead.
Oh.
And then he would go and he would do his ceremony, and then he'd leave him in a chair completely nude. He'd go to work and come back and be like, "Hello. Hey, I didn't see any there." And it's just, and again, it's about the how normal it was, and how it's like, oh, I got to get rid of these bodies. That it was that's where the true scariness comes in.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and the whole blackout thing, that sort of evolved over the years, where at first he would say it's like, well, I was blacked out for 6 of them. I was blacked out for 5 of them.
Okay.
I was blacked out for 3 of them. Actually, I remember every single one of them.
Can I just say I remember quite a bit? And, it's all sort of like, let's say, etched in my mind. I gave you a bit of a fib, mostly just because, like, oh, right? Everybody hears about what I do, and they're like, oh, what's wrong with him? And I tell you what, there's quite a bit wrong with me.
Sounds like it.
Now, like only a few other serial killers, Dennis Nilsen wrote an autobiography.
Oh.
But instead of, say, a Pee Wee Gaskins, who, quote-unquote, wrote his in order to be seen as the baddest little boy around, Nilsen's goal was to portray himself as a sensitive intellectual.
Oh, I see.
Nilsen's biography was a 4,000-plus page opus titled History of a Drowning Boy.
See, that is very goth. That does sound like that sounds like an album from like Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah.
And History of a Drowning Boy was named for an incident from his childhood. That book is a treatise in navel gazing, with chapters such as the one about his sexual history titled Orientation in Me.
Yes. He is very snooty. He is a snooty man that wrote a snooty poetry-filled book that is not so... That thing's, now that he's passed, that's a part of why we're doing this episode, because Dennis Nilsen passed and we bumped him up the list, because he was the next one. Wait till you see the which I'm excited for, the one that was going to be before him. But he was a snooty boy. And every one of his pages is filled with these like little, like, it's just very poetic.
Oh, okay.
It's him searching for the reasons why, because again, it's a bunch of people were looking at him being like, why did you do this shit? And he's just like, let me get my quill and the story shall begin. And thus began the final truth.
Oh, that's the final truth. It's interesting because you talk to people who'd be like, I got $17,000 of student debt. And they're like, what's your major? Orientation in me. They did let me make my own major. It turns out can't get a job.
Now, from the excerpts I've read, it's really, in essence, no different from any other serial killer confession. They think they're taking responsibility, but at the same time, they're also hinting that it isn't really their fault, that if not for these 2 or 3 things, then everything would have been fine.
Okay.
But even in their confessions, they can't help but lie in order to twist the facts to make themselves look better. With Gaskins, it was to make himself look tougher. But with Nilsen, it was all about making him and his crimes seem more sophisticated.
But that is a common thread with Dennis Nilsen that we'll see. Everything that came from his life, because he came from this small Scottish shanty town filled with fish guts, was that... Wait, have you ever seen the show Little Britain?
Yeah. Oh, I love Little Britain, yeah.
There's a character in that who's the only gay in the village.
David.
Yes. He was that.
Yes.
Where because he was born gay and he's in this village where it's just like, he was the only one, or as far as he was concerned, he was the only one. Everything had a more thematic, like a more dramatic flair. Every single thing was about how important it was. Every single detail of his childhood was a seed that flourished in his young, tormented mind. And
sure.
It's a lot.
So he walked into his house, he saw a dead corpse there, or just a corpse sitting in the chair, and he says, that's because I'm a sophisticant. Yes. Is that what we're talking about here?
Hold up here, like it stops, like in the movies, like, hold up, let me explain how I got here.
Pulls a Zach Morris timeout.
Well, while he's trying to make his crimes more sophisticated, he's also trying to mitigate his crimes as well. He said that he was not a sex maniac, not a sadist, not a necrophiliac, not vengeful, and not insane.
Certainly not. Definitely completely on the money.
Maybe
tight
it's-
as a drum.
Maybe it's the sarcastic knot.
What he was, in his words, was totally irresponsible.
I love that.
That sounds
Totally irresponsible.
That sounds like the period of time. I went through a 4-year period of time where I just didn't pay my U.S. taxes because I didn't know what the fuck to do with it. I mean, I've since paid up and I did
Right.
everything. But I remember going to an accountant and just be like showing the notices from the IRS and being like, I'm like totally irresponsible.
Yeah.
It's like, we will fix this.
It's, the totally irresponsible thing. There is some truth to that because he said again and again that he could have turned himself in after the first murder, but when pressed as to why he never did, he said it was because he was worried about what was going to happen to his little dog, Bleep.
His dog was named Bleep.
That's
oh my god.
I don't know. All killings aside, that's a great name for a dog.
It's the cutest names I heard for a little Scottish dirty dog. And then part of it too was that I am pretty certain, please correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you will. I think that he was the only serial killer with a pet. With several pets. Like of the ones we've heard, I think maybe some of them had a dog.
I would
feel like
imagine
Gacy must have had a dog.
Gacy had no pets.
dog?
I would imagine that like Gaskins or like Henry Lee Lucas had like a yard dog.
Right,
Like,
Yeah, that's not like your dog.
Yeah.
That's like a dog that belongs to the community that shits on your yard the most.
Right.
Where it's like, Bleep was his dog.
Yeah.
Bleep was a tiny little dog that's like, it's like Wendy. You would not mistake it. Wendy's like my dog because Wendy has to be carried by me to do most functions in her life.
Right. Yeah, you're needed.
Well, Nilsen said he never appreciated it when people called him a monster because doing so diminished the psychological complexities of both the case and himself. In other words, he found a way to make himself special instead of just another dickhead who chose murder.
Okay.
Well, you got to make yourself special because, Marcus, if you don't make yourself special, then who's going to make you special?
I don't know. Maybe Bleep.
And as we'll find out, this man was indeed a monster, but not in the way that we think of, say, to put it in British terms, Ian Brady or Fred West were monsters.
Ooh, yes.
Nilsen was a monster of romance.
A monster of romance. The meatloaf of serial killers. All right.
And while Dennis Nilsen's loneliness tempts sympathy, he, like Dahmer, is a man who deserves none. Nilsen again and again tried to intellectualize his crimes to make them more impressive than they actually were, making him no different from Henry Lee Lucas, claiming the Hand of Death hired
Right.
him and his buddy Otis to commit their murders in order to destabilize the American government.
Of course.
But before we get into the life of Nilsen, let's go through our sources. Okay. The first is the true crime classic Killing for Company by Brian Masters, given to me by friend Neil during our UK tour. Thank you, Neil.
All right.
Thank
very
you,
nice.
Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Neil. The other source today is Dennis Nilsen, Conversations with Britain's Most Evil Serial Killer, written by Russ Coffey.
Oh, all right.
But the interesting thing here is that while both were written with the assistance of Nilsen himself, Killing for Company was written in 1985, soon after Nilsen's conviction, while Coffey's book is from 2013.
Okay. Killing for Company also sounds like a really sad childhood. Just like I would kill for some company right now. I could just go for any kind of companionship.
I will say that through many years of my life, I was definitely eaten for loneliness.
Well, these two books, having these two sources, that means that we've got two different perspectives from Dennis Nilsen, told almost 30 years apart. So the story that he tells has time to change and evolve.
Right.
The challenge here is to figure out what is truth and what is lies.
What is truth and what is lies?
That's tough.
But we'll do our best as we get into the life of Dennis Nilsen.
All right.
I know that he's not goth, but the thing is that a part of it is the prog part of it is the lamest part. We'll get into it, but it's just so like it's just
I like
the lamest
some
music of the
prog
world.
rock.
I
Name
love-
of the
do not
famous
get me
one,
wrong.
the Flogging Mollies.
What?
The Flogging
That's not
Mollies?
prog rock.
What the hell's prog rock?
Prog rock is like Yes or like Rush.
Sticks.
Oh, never mind. Oh, I
'cause
do
it's
not
not-
like prog rock.
I'm not talking about action prog. I'm not talking about like, fun up-tempo prog, instrumental prog, like your Emerson, Lake and Palmer. There are certain areas where it's like, oh, what are we doing? We're really killing people to this?
All right.
This is the soundtrack to our
What
murder?
am I thinking of?
There's a lot of great prog out there. Like there's this one great prog album that was based on Lord of the Rings. That's like a completely instrumental prog album that was put out in like the mid-'70s, and it is fantastic.
All right, I'll give you some credit there. What is Flogging Molly? What's that one called?
It's just punk. That's just like Irish punk.
Dude. No,
I
just
think
Irish.
it's called something
Irish rock
different.
music.
It's called like swashbuckling tunes or something like that.
No, dude, it's fucking St. Patrick's Day pub crawl soundtrack music.
I thought it was called Okay, well, never mind. Whatever. Let's go on with the Tom Sawyer conversation here.
Well, at the time of Nilsen's capture in 1983, he was a reasonably handsome, big glasses wearing, rum and coke guy working in civil service who spent his days haranguing his fellow employees about left-wing politics.
Okay.
I don't understand. Every single one of these British serial killers, they always say the same thing, shockingly handsome. Where it's just like, he still looked like a skeleton with a bunch of Play-Doh on it. Like, he's still like I don't mean to malign British men all the time. And
very
their looks,
handsome.
But he was sallow.
Yeah.
Right. No, you could be a David Beckham, a very handsome British man. This man Nilsen doesn't really fall into that category.
No, they always say that, but like, he was actually kind of good looking. I was like, no, he's not.
Right.
That's me, though.
Well, by the time he was caught, Dennis Nilsen had murdered 15 men in 2 different locations and had been disposing of them in gruesome, horrific displays of indifference. But before all that happened, Dennis Nilsen was just the saddest little boy in Scotland.
Does that work?
That works.
That sounded pretty good. Yeah.
The scene has been set, man. I'm in merry old Scotland.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you remember, man, our knees going up and the homeland.
Oh,
God,
yes.
I miss the bosom of Scotland and how good I felt to be. Honestly, Glasgow was such a good place for us.
Glasgow was amazing.
It was. Dennis Nilsen was born in the small northeastern fishing town of Fraserburgh, just east of Lossiemouth and Fochabers, but not quite as north as the town of John O'Groats.
You pronounced it perfectly.
Yes, perfectly done. And each one of these towns is based off of a different story of a giant man somehow being washed ashore on an island filled with tiny people that held him hostage until he murdered all of them by stepping on them.
Hey, all right. Gulliver's Travel.
Fochabers.
John
O'Groats.
John O'Groats.
I love that all their towns sound like they're just yelling at you.
He named him John O'Groats because it's the sound me grandpa made when he'd put on his boats for the day. Oh, Groats! Get stitch out me spin.
You're the grandson of that guy?
And to cut the ropes in it.
You're now the mayor.
Fraserburgh is the biggest shellfish port in Scotland and is known the country over as a remote, miserable, cold, dour place and has recently been dubbed the heroin capital of Scotland.
Hey, lassie, come here. Help me fall asleep in the middle of the street. Yeah, you give me this needle, eh? Yeah, makes me calm down even when I sleep, I'm loud. I'm sleeping, I'm nodding, I'm sleeping.
The people of Fraserburgh, at least back in Nelson's childhood, were said by Brian Masters to have been suspicious of strangers, very aware of the existence of good and evil, and had markedly different personalities at night.
Sounds like people addicted to heroin.
Also, do you ever watch The League of Gentlemen?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It reminds me of that small town. Because I believe it was like northern England. I forget where it was actually set, but the idea of being like locals being the only ones you could trust.
Yeah, I think that you are taking these sketch television shows very literally when it comes to the representation of the nation that they hail from.
That is their cultural reach out to people like me. That is how I know. That was their cultural attaché, was all of the sketch comedy from the UK.
Well, on the other hand, the dour nature of this town is somewhat to be expected, as a large number of the population would drown every year on fishing expeditions, sometimes losing entire male lineages in a single day.
It's not funny, but, just Like, stop. Just like in the boat. I always say.
Daddy, you got to help me. There's so many fish pulling me into the ocean, Daddy. They never should have put us on the same boat, my son.
It seems like if it happens like too much, like kind of your fault. Like a little bit.
Stop going out.
I'm not maligning the fishermen.
Now, the people in this district even have an almost completely different language from the rest of the country. They call it Bukendoric.
Ooh.
Here is an example of the way they talked back then, as recorded on a 78. This is a story about a humorous airplane trip.
That's my favorite. So you mean to tell me Jerry Seinfeld existed in the 1950s Scotland?
This is about the black box. I'm going to laugh out loud. Oh, lol.
This is like from the 30s.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Up we get like a bat in the noise, hide your tongue. The engine roared and nearly blew Janet's skettles, and the wind in our faces was something of it.
Is he a character from Under Milkwood? What the hell is that accent?
No, I get it.
What did he... Nah. Ken, would you care to translate the bit?
I believe he said something about how, like, his kilt got stuck on a lug nut, and then a woman was there and saw his berries, and she was like, berries everywhere, and then he said something about like, what's the deal with the food being so small on the trip?
Oh, all right. It's a funny bit.
Now, it may not come as a surprise that this remote fishing village was a hotspot for inbreeding, going back centuries. It was so common that surnames became essentially meaningless in this town.
Oh, man.
To avoid confusion, people would be referred to not only by their first names, but by the first names of their parents as well. For example, Nilsen's grandmother was called Wusselsleby.
Rolls off the tongue.
It really does. But you know what? I understand. I mean, after a while, you're stuck on this island. Cousin Irma is starting to look pretty good.
Yeah,
because at least Cousin Irma doesn't have the rugged farmer's knees that Cousin Velma has. Because Cousin Velma's starting to look like a rhino from the hips down. And Cousin Irma, at least she's doing steps by walking the fish gut buckets up to the top of the consulbury.
I get. Is it once removed is okay?
I think it's like second cousin is fine. But I think just in this, because they were all just stuck in this one town.
So
and nobody
talking,
would leave. So, I think at this time, I think this town is like about like 11,000.
11,000. Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
So it was a little bit larger of a gene pool than you might expect, but small enough
I get it.
where mental problems were rife within this community due to the constant inbreeding.
That explains the drowning. Perfect. It's all coming together.
But it's like any one of those small towns when you're born. There's certain people that are born that understand, like, I got to get the fuck out of here as soon as you see what's happening. And there are other people that are just completely contented to be part of the same system because it's nice because you're there, you have your whole lineage. It's like if you have kids, you've got your grandmother who's also your sister. She can watch the kids. And then you have like your own kids. When they become your uncle, they can help you go to the farmer's market. I'm not sure what they do.
No, that sounds about right. And if you are in a small town right now and you feel like you're being gaslit because everyone's so extremely stupid, don't be afraid to get on out.
Yeah, get on out of there.
Go to Cleveland.
Go to Cleveland.
I just went to Cleveland. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful, huh?
I love Cleveland.
Really? It gets a bad rap.
It does, but it's a wonderful town. I had a great time.
All right.
Me and Carolina both had a fucking wonderful time.
Yeah, you are the only two human beings I've ever heard of that went on a romantic vacation to Indianapolis and Cleveland and came back like whistling like you had just come back from Paris, which is really nice.
It was quite remarkable, yeah.
Well, back to the mental illness of this village. It was so rife that insanity was considered nothing more than a quirk of personality.
Oh, okay.
For example, Dennis Nilsen's great-grandmother would shutter herself inside her house for the months of December to June every year. And the most they did about that was to give her the droll nickname, the June Rose.
You see, they have better nicknames.
Yes.
Yeah. They have more colorful nicknames because that's very poetic. And you can kind of see where Dennis Nilsen came from with the idea of his, like, of poetry and aggrandizing things that are small. Because it's like, that's a very strange behavior. But they made it into like a fun thing. They flip it and reverse it.
I know that I don't, I'm not the key researcher here on the show, but Marcus, you did miss the element to this that really kind of ties it all together. His grandmother was a bear. And so naturally from December to June, she was in hibernation, and I think that that's important to remember.
Oh, I forgot that the neighboring town was Narnia.
Yes, absolutely. That's correct.
Well, speaking of the poetry, it seems like poetry is a really big cultural thing in this district, in this area of Scotland, because when I was looking on YouTube to try to find examples of this dialect, I found a lot of poems. Oh. I found a lot of guys like reading poetry. Like there was a poem about the weather. There was one about haggis.
Yeah.
There was one about the weather. Another one about the weather.
Wow.
I mean, you could see
a lot of poems about the weather.
Interesting.
Well, Nilsen's entire maternal side, the Whites, were notorious for their mental illness. Another one of Nilsen's ancestors, named William Pum, tried on more than one occasion to drown himself, while another was remanded to a mental hospital but never left.
I don't understand. I take the glass of water and I try to drain myself. I put it up to my lips and I pour it into my mouth and I'm like, glug, glug, glug. I never die.
You're just staying hydrated.
Oh, I'm drinking.
That's called drinking, yeah.
And that wasn't the only weirdness in Nilsen's family. He even had a relative that at one time was put forth as possibly being Jack the Ripper.
Really?
Long before it was discovered that Dennis Nilsen was related to him.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's got a whole entry on the Jack the Ripper casebook.
Interesting.
However, the Whites, even though they did have all these mental problems, they were also known to be extremely intelligent people.
That's a very controversial statement to make, Marcus.
Right. It's kind of like when you were watching, I know you haven't seen it yet, but Evil Genius on Netflix is amazing. They constantly talk about how the main woman is like a brilliant person, and then you hear her speak, and I don't see it. I just don't see the super intelligence.
Hey, man,
but you know what?
Sometimes intelligence is not in words, it is in actions.
I still don't see it. I don't see it in that case.
You and I will get into Evil Genius outside of Marcus, so you don't ruin more of the series for him.
It's fine.
Well, this environment was what Dennis Nilsen was born into just 6 months after the Nazis surrendered to the Allies. See, during the war, Fraserburg was an important outpost against a possible northern invasion from Nazi-occupied Norway. And since Fraserburg was right across the North Sea from Norway, that meant that this small fishing village was swarmed by resistance fighters from Nazi-occupied Scandinavian nations.
Okay. So horny. These men, because think about this. You've only been fucking the people you know your whole life. All of a sudden, these strapping Scandinavians come rolling into this small town. You know we're going to have a lot of Magnuses and Olafs and Svens come out of this town pretty soon.
Could be, could be.
Yep, one of those resistance fighters was Dennis Nilsen's Norwegian father, Olaf Magnus Moksheim.
Cool, I love the name Magnus.
Oh, Magnus is great. And he, for some reason, changed his name to Nilsen when he was in Scotland.
Sounds like maybe he had a family back home.
Oh, yes, he was hiding from someone. I see.
Yes.
So during a night of revelry in one of the local bars, Olaf met Dennis's mother, Betty White.
Betty White.
Oh, that's fun.
Actually, I think it's pronounced Whit. Betty Whit.
I like Betty White. She's a national hero.
Yeah, I like Betty White as well.
When her and Willie die, that's the last of a great generation.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, especially if they do it together.
Willie and Betty White.
Yeah, fucking Willie Nelson pressing her forehead to hers as she puts the fucking revolver at the back of her own fucking head and blows up both her brains.
Oh, man.
Full metal jacket.
I just want Willie Nelson's final words, like after he hits a huge joint, just be like, one toke over the line, and then just die.
Well, Olaf and Betty were married only a couple of months after they met, and Betty popped out 3 kids in quick succession before Olaf skipped town for good and never came back.
Come on.
He divorced her on grounds of adultery, which isn't surprising, as Dennis said the only thing he and his mother shared was, quote, a fondness for cock.
Now, he wrote that his mom, all moms at some point at least have a passing agreement to cock. You know what I mean? Because they had to have in order for it to be inside of them.
Oh, man.
But he also wrote that when he became all like jaunty and gay afterwards, especially when he blamed his mom for fucking everything. So that was the thing.
Yeah, because Dennis doesn't place any blame on his dad for leaving.
Okay.
It was all of his mother. And
Well, yeah, because he guaranteed, he was like, yeah, dad was bored. He came into town from fucking Scandinavia where he was used to skiing everywhere. Yeah, of course he came to Freischberg and hated it here.
Of course.
Yeah, they said that he used to just get wasted in the pubs every night. He worked at a tobacco factory during the day. And after about 3 years, he just fucked off back to Norway and said, I'm not coming back.
All right, makes sense.
And Nilsen, about his mother, he said for years that she was a good woman. And everyone who met Nilsen's mother said she was a warm woman. She was a kind woman. When Dennis would talk about his mother to his coworkers, they said he always did it with love. But in his quest to rewrite his life, Nilsen claimed in History of a Drowning Boy that his mother was actually a terrible person who, along with his grandmother, was probably responsible for his grotesque fetishes.
Oh, yeah, because I always remember, because he always talked about when his mom would bring a fresh corpse home and then they would all sit and play with it like it was an uncle visiting from out of town.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're completely responsible.
I don't know. Is it classified as a fetish, the corpse?
Yeah.
That's
Of
a
course.
fetish. Well,
Yeah,
it's a little
because
bit bigger than a fetish.
Whatever makes
I feel
you
like
shoot-
it trumps a fetish.
Whatever makes you shoot is technically a fetish.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's a.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
It just depends if it moves from an idea to your job.
Yeah.
That's the big jump.
Okay.
Well, Nilsen said that his mother and his grandmother would pass him back and forth when he was a baby, like, in his words, an unpleasant object. They said he was merely, quote,
Acted upon in rituals of carrying, stripping, bathing, powdering, dressing, and laying out by strong, towering powers.
I don't understand any of this language, but I know it's English.
He does all the twists of the R's. He has a very lovely accent, honestly. It's very, when you speak with him, he's very intoxicating to listen to, where you can see sort of the Edgar Allan Poe, but even more British side of him, pop out.
Okay.
Yeah, he's one of the few serial killers where you're like, actually, he's kind of charming. But that also could be just our whole American fascination with British and Scottish accents. We're like, wow, he's got a British accent. He's so smart.
Right.
Don't get me fucking started about how many jobs we lose as American actors to British actors because they come over here for pilot season, and then all the British actors, they're like, oh, Shakespeare. And it's be like, no, he just has an accent. You could suck at acting and still be British. And it was when I met the guy that played Charles Manson in the Aquarius thing, and he's like, hello, mate, how you doing there? And I was like, you're going to be British? Charles Manson is ours.
Well, Liam Helmsworth, he sounds American, but he's British, and I like that. And the guy from The Office, who was in Black Panther.
Oh,
Fat.
Martin Freeman.
He's British too.
He was British in The Office. You know what I mean? He was there.
American in Black
But he's
Panther.
American in Black Panther. I couldn't even tell. I'm serious. I thought that was very impressive.
No, we haven't really gotten into what Dennis Nilsen actually did with his victims concerning that last statement that he made.
Right.
But let's just say that rituals of dressing, undressing, washing, and laying out the bodies played a pretty goddamn big part in it. Now, Nilsen claimed that this emotional deprivation, this clinical and perfunctory lack of affection, imprinted itself on his sexuality. He said it was that combined with what happened with his grandfather.
Okay.
Now, Andrew White seemed to have been a good man who took care of his grandchild while Dennis's mother was out being a real Casey Anthony, spending more and more nights out at the local pubs.
What kind of DJs are there in Scotland, I wonder, during this time?
What up? It's 1973.
That's fun.
And so Dennis and his grandfather formed a strong bond. Nilsen said when he was a kid, he took a soccer ball straight to the face, but his grandfather saved him with a, quote, magic sponge. Although Brian Masters never actually got into what Grandpa's magic sponge actually was.
I just don't think Brian Masters asked specifically what Grandpa's magic sponge was.
I don't want to go too deep into it.
But it does sound like a cute thing that Grandpa, because I remember my pop used to do a thing where he used to do talking about his gamakas, which is what he called his his nose and he'd pretend to take it. Then he'd also take his teeth out and go, la, 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 and like play with his teeth.
Yeah.
So when you're hurt and stuff, and then you laugh as a kid, and then it's like over. So
Yeah, my grandfather did the teeth thing too.
Yeah.
And then I found it was all a lie. Dentures.
But if Grandpa's magic sponge happens to be underneath his dick, then that's also bad too.
That is bad, yes. But I don't think it was. This is just a nice little. His grandfather said, "This is the magic sponge, and you feel better."
Hold on it, because
Okay, I'm gonna hold on it. I don't know. I'm with the audience here. We're just going down the road together.
But in October of 1951, Andrew White's health started failing.
Okay.
White was, like many in his town, a fisherman. And while out at sea one day, he laid down in his bunk and died of a heart attack in his sleep.
Okay.
hopefully, man, I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
so
all right.
so restful.
But the thing was, no one in Dennis's family actually told him that his beloved grandfather has died.
So they're just weekend at Bernie's this whole thing? He's just up there. They're just holding him like a damn puppet. Be like, no, it's still Thanksgiving with
It's
Grandpa. And be like,
It's Grandpa.
I think his jaw is falling off, Ma.
What I heard is that if I play with Grandpa's magic sponge, we can find out if he's alive or not.
So all Dennis knew was that the house was suddenly filled with crying people. Then, finally, they brought the boy into the kitchen to look at his grandfather's dead body, but still, they didn't tell him that he was dead. They didn't even try to explain what death was. They said he was only sleeping.
This is a learning opportunity for the boy.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's like 6, which is like, six is old enough.
That's when my grandfather passed away. I'll never forget it. It was the first time I ever held somebody's hand as they were dying, and you gotta do it.
Well, yeah, because no, a part of it, it's like, yes, he was only 6 years old, and they thought they were sparing him. They thought if they didn't say that he's just sleeping, but the problem is that, I mean, he had bad wires.
Right.
Yeah, these guys, I mean, I think what it is that, you know, they have bad wires that are crossed a little more easily than the rest of us.
Sure. Okay.
And because most serial killers, the wires they get crossed are sex and violence. And that usually happens at a young age. And that's part of what drives them. But with Nilsen, the wires that got fused were love and death.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm goth dancing. I'm just goth dancing.
Kind of emo.
In 1985, he said, quote,
My troubles started there. It blighted my personality permanently. I have spent all my emotional life searching for my grandfather.
He died.
Oh, I know, and I'm very, very happy about it. Sponge.
Now, while a lot of this is kind of confusing, in 2012, Nilsen changed his tone, which might actually explain all this a little bit better if it's true. By 2012, Nilsen came to believe that his grandfather was what Nilsen called a, quote, hesitant pedophile.
And I think those are the best kind.
That also sounds like a prog rock band.
Yeah, man, they had to change that title in 1996 once they came across the pond.
Yep.
Nilsen said he remembered his grandfather taking him out to a dark, slit-windowed, concrete pillbox guard post left over from the war. It's just a big concrete box.
Okay.
Yeah. There, Dennis said Andrew took down his pants, held his penis, and told him to urinate.
Now, this is the thing.
Hesitant pedophile.
Now, this is the thing. I was close with my grandfather. And it didn't seem to be, and never once did my grandfather hold my penis like he was Cruella de Vil holding a cigarette in order for me to go to the bathroom. So I feel like no matter how close you are, that's like maybe crossing the line. Maybe that's not how it's supposed to be done.
Definitely straight. Is that as far as it went?
Well, Nilsen also kind of like entertains the thought that his grandfather might have drugged his tea and stuck a finger up his butt a couple times, which Nilsen said might explain why he was obsessed with defecation as a kid.
They say that quite a bit when it comes to kids that have been sexually assaulted, is that they do oftentimes get obsessed with defecation. So there is something to that, but also he was blowing up his whole life. Every single thing. He was constantly looking for the reasons why his murders were not his fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a part of it, his revisionist history of his childhood, because a lot of things change and become darker because he's now putting a new lens on everything, trying to constantly discover, because a part of it's also the question to himself of why am I like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think with this case, I don't know if we've ever studied a case where people were so focused on the why. You know, here in America, we do focus on the why a little bit, but it seemed like, the Dennis Nilsen case, especially when you read UK writers write about this stuff, they really focus on the why more than anything else. And I think Dennis Nilsen also focused on the why.
Yeah, around here it's usually just like the why, because he's a monster. And let's get into it. Like that's usually the why is pretty broad and vague.
But he was also their most prolific serial killer for quite a bit of time. So he got a lot of play in the UK, and there was a lot of discussion. And then it's the very common trope now that we see of he was the quiet one. He had a job. He wasn't a screaming, rambling maniac. Like, he did all of this shit, but anybody that was close to him was like, Dennis was weird.
Yeah. Well, that tends to be well, now he killed 15, right?
15, yeah.
And so isn't he still number one by the UK standards?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe he definitely got number one in the UK.
Okay.
Now, all this stuff about sexual abuse with his grandfather, I mean, if it is true, then there might be something to this. If love and death became fused, then it's possible that these incidents, if they did indeed happen, could have brought sex into the mix as well. Because as we'll see, something without a doubt linked sex and death in Nilsen's mind. And that brings us to his other weird childhood sex possible fantasy that tries to explain away his awful behavior. Now, this is the incident that produced the title of the autobiography, History of a Drowning Boy. So when Nilsen was about 8, he was swimming in the ocean when he noticed an older boy watching him. Suddenly, though, Nilsen was swept underwater and started drowning. But the next thing he knew, he said he was waking up naked on the beach with, quote, a sticky white mess on his stomach.
Oh, God, I don't like it, man.
I hate it. It's... if only the audience could see Ben's face right now.
Well, it's the mix between that and I have to sneeze. But why always that is disgusting.
It's not nice.
It's gross as fuck. But
I will say the ocean is filled with disgusting things, though. Like, I've gotten out of the ocean in Florida, and you're just covered in weird things.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like the ocean.
Man, you got fucking all sorts of shit. You got jellyfish, you got stingrays, you got jerk-off hungry boys looking for drowned victims. I hate the beach.
I do not like it.
Yeah, and that's gross as fuck, but it also probably never happened. Because as we'll see, unlike other serial killers like John Wayne Gacy and Jennifer Bianchi, who try to lessen the abuse they suffered as kids, Nilsen does his best to blow it out as much as he can.
I see.
However, there were incidents of animal cruelty. Now, even though Nilsen was reportedly very good to his little dog Bleep, his little cat Dee Dee, and his little budgie Hamish in his later years.
Hamish, Dee Dee, and Bleep?
Yeah, that's cute as shit.
Oh my God, send him on a mystery.
It's cute as shit.
That is great.
They were turned into blood sausages when he was arrested. So.
Yes, maybe the meat pie's there. Okay.
Well, even though he was good to animals when he was older, as a kid, he dabbled in zoo sadism. When Nilsen was 9 years old, he hung a cat by its neck from a wire in an abandoned bathroom just to see what would happen. However, he said the whole thing actually made him sick, which I think, if he's telling the truth, tells you something about Nilsen's emotional core. See, Dennis Nilsen, without a doubt, suffered from borderline personality disorder. But he also wasn't necessarily a pure sociopath. I think he was actually a lot more complicated than that.
Well, BPD is a very, very complicated illness. Like, it's a thing
Extremely.
and we see a lot of serial killers end up suffering from it. Mostly it's just because they either weren't diagnosed, they did not get the help that they needed, and a lot of it's got to do with not having meds and therapy and all the stuff to talk about this shit, because they do stuff, but they're watching their hands do it, and they are like dissociated from it, but they're still feeling everything.
Right.
Yeah, that's how my therapist explained it to me as we were chatting about Nilsen on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, she said that while like sociopaths feel nothing, people with BPD actually feel the pain they're causing.
So it's like you're playing a first-person shooter on like autoplay or something.
Yeah, that's
Something
a
like that,
terrifying
yeah.
way to put it, but yes, it's just like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, even though they still do these things, they actually connect with their victim. And this might tell you why guys like Dennis Nilsen and Jeffrey Dahmer wallow in their crimes after they're caught. It's of course no excuse and doesn't make them any better than the rest, as they still took lives at the end of the day, but they do feel something besides just the fear of getting caught.
Well, the way Nilsen would describe his life is that he said that he had his regular life, and then everything else played in his mind like a film, and that he watched everything separated from himself and would see himself doing things, and then everything was deep fantasy. And he eventually, as we're going to see, it starts when he was a little kid, because I was the same way. I had a very, very vivid imagination, and then at some point it falls away, right? Or it's like my imagination still goes. I have now what's called intrusive thoughts, but that's just because of what we do for a living. But mostly it's like this guy, Dennis Nilsen, looked at everything like it was a romantic fantasy, and he could not bring the two together. He could not bring his fantasy world into his life and figure out how to do it until much later on.
Yeah, and this ability to do horrible things while still feeling, it's also why these killers tend to be more sympathetic. For example, look at Eileen Wuornos. She was a classic borderline personality, but she actually had feelings. Like when you look into Eileen Wuornos' shark eyes, like you still actually see something behind them.
Yeah, she really did get into Slow Ride. She really liked that song.
Oh yeah,
really
she gave
got
him
into
one.
it.
But a part of it is it's tragic, because it really does, because it's also it's very difficult to treat, and it is very difficult to hear the diagnosis.
Yeah, how do you know to go to the doctor if you have it? Like, what tells you to go to the... that's the thing that is hard to understand. If you got this, maybe you just have a moment of clarity and then you make your appointment, or I don't know. It just seems difficult.
If your actions are ruining your life and you have no control over said actions, then it's time to go and get checked out. And then if someone tells you, hey, you got this, you have to listen to them, because it's also, it's a very hard diagnosis to accept.
Sure, I can understand, yeah.
I understand the sleeping fetish, but if it just like gets to the point that literally the only way you can come is if the other person acts dead, I feel like you should just tell somebody. You should just tell somebody.
If it's a consensual situation, whatever.
Yeah, but just tell like a couple of people and see a bunch of people's reactions. Just kind of see how people, you know what I mean? Like just test it out. With somebody, with like a doctor, or just
I wouldn't bring it up at the bar, but whatever.
So just after the cat incident, Nilsen's mother remarried and moved the whole family to a nicer town named Sturken.
Cool.
That was just a little bit further inland.
All right.
And life seemed to be fine, or at the very least comfortable, but the thing that drove Dennis away was being gay in a town that was never going to accept him for who he was.
So
or at least he
Scotland
thought.
So Scotland now.
I don't know. I don't know anything about Scotland.
Nice.
Scotland's nice. We don't know if it's a homophobe. You don't know if it's a homophobic.
Catholic, a little bit religious.
Maybe. Well, aren't you thinking of Ireland?
Are they different? You know what? I'm thinking of the kilt people. No, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of wonder. I know for a fact there's a lot of open-minded, wonderful people there. I'm just joking around here.
Well,
just making a joke here. Just trying to get the little humor in there.
So Dennis Nilsen, after figuring this wasn't the place for him, at the age of 14, and probably is the only recourse for getting out of this town as soon as he could, he signed up for a 9-year stint in the army just before his 16th birthday.
At 15?
You could do that. In England, you can actually sign up for the army at... I checked it out. You can sign up at 15 years and 7 months.
For 9 years? Wow.
It was a great thing that happened for him, and if the rest of his life didn't happen, it definitely gave him structure. Like he showed up, he didn't know what to do with himself. He was not fitting in anywhere. He was getting the shit beat out of him. He was like doing all stuff. So when he showed up at the army, it was like a really good. He's like, okay, I'll be a part of something. I'm gonna train. I'm gonna do all this shit. And so he went in like open-eyed. Also, it quite had to do with the fact he did say that it had to do with the men in uniform at the office, and he knew kind of instinctually, being like, so you mean to tell me I get to be in a barrack with a bunch of just sweaty, green-covered men just pushing up on each other? Like, it's great for him.
Whatever it takes. I love it.
So Nilsen, when he went in, he took all of his tests and scored his highest marks in catering science.
Catering science?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Catering?
Yeah. Catering science.
Like waiting? Waiter?
That's how Dennis Nilsen became a career army cook.
Oh. No, he's not. No, you do not. They don't have waiters in the U.S. Army. You don't sign up. You don't become privates are not waiters.
Oh, okay.
At the mess hall.
Yeah, have you ever heard? You've ever heard of an army waiter?
I don't think so. I don't know.
And the army is also where Dennis Nilsen began to develop his lifelong love of booze.
Yeah.
Now, Nilsen saw himself as just another kid who needed a pint or two so he could relax around the other guys in his squad, but others who knew him back then said Nilsen was just a lightweight who got trashed off half a pint and generally annoyed everyone.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of it's very classic, because in the history of a drowned boy, it's all like, and everyone was delighted by my behavior. I would go and I'd nip back a couple of suds and everyone would be like, oh, Dennis, I wish you were around all the time. And I said, oh, quit fawning over me, you paltry young men, slapping their thighs, kissing their cheeks.
Just cut to him dancing on the table, kicking over everybody's plates, drinking out of their cups, grabbing toupees, just being like, we had a wonderful evening, didn't we, guys?
Yeah, and then he's also like 115 pounds soaking wet, so people would just fucking roll him out of a bar. Like every single time he would fuck around, a bunch of people would be like, all right, this is done, and just grab him, and essentially he would just get tossed from place to place.
Yeah, I will say, I will give you credit for this, Henry. Occasionally, specifically in Philadelphia, I was so drunk you channeled your inner god of war, and you picked me up over your shoulder like I was a tree limb, or more dragged me like a toboggan, but nonetheless,
Yeah, but you
did a good
felt,
job.
well, luckily it was snowing.
Yes.
So then the ground was wet, and I literally had to drag you like you were in those palm fronds, like rafts that you do in the jungle when someone breaks their leg.
Well, Nilsen's drinking allowed him to place himself in sexual situations, even if it was only subconsciously at first, as it was during his first posting in Germany. One morning, Nilsen woke up after a long night of drinking next to a German that Nilsen referred to only as Fat Hans.
Man, you could have just called me Hans.
Yeah, I do not appreciate the nickname, but also, do you have any chocolate? I only have the finest milk chocolates in the morning, and then I have sausages for my second breakfast, and off I've come.
Yeah, when you do hear the name Hans, you do think a very muscular guy. Perhaps I'm just thinking of Kevin Nealon's character from SNL.
Could be.
But that is what I think of. So yeah, you have to clarify Fat Hans.
Now, Nilsen had gone blackout the night before, but he assumed he'd just stayed over at Fat Hans's place because he was too drunk to walk back to base. But still, this situation gave Nilsen a fantasy. Imagining just the possibility that the German had abused him in some way, Nilsen said, quote,
My mind thrilled at the thought of this fat German undressing and fondling me.
Because that was his whole thing, was that he was like, he would build it all always into being like how irresistible he was when he was drunk. So when he would say he had this endless fantasy of getting so drunk, and then he would lay there asleep, and he just know that no one would be able to help but like play with his butthole and suck on his penis while he was asleep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the fact that Fat Hans was fat and ugly made it even harder in Dennis's mind because it played into his fascination with androgyny. And then he took it even further. Dennis started imagining the same scenario, but with some of his fellow soldiers. So to try to make this a reality, Nilsen would pretend to pass out on the odd chance that a fondling might occur.
Oh, I was just like, how does everybody else feel? Do they feel as tired as I am? Because I am just so,
Yeah.
my butthole is exposed.
Yeah.
Certainly would be a tragedy if something were to happen to it.
It's just a strange honeypotting going on here, but okay.
Yeah, and you could just see the other dudes just like staring at him.
Yeah. Okay.
Being like, what are you doing, Dennis? I'm playing the Vaz game.
Wouldn't it be a terrible, terrible series of circumstances if someone were to put several thorned flowers in my buttocks?
I sit here exposed, waiting to be pranked.
That would be kind of wild.
But nothing like that ever actually happened. And in January of 1967, the carefree days of Germany ended when Nilsen was transferred to Aden in the Gulf of Arabia, now present-day Yemen.
What were the years you said there?
67.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And in Aden, he was a cook at a terrorist detainee prison in the city of Al-Mansura. Shit got serious.
Al Mansour was also our gutter guy in Queens when we were a kid. He was over there, he would always clean out all the gutters. Loved Al.
Not bad. So he's in Yemen now.
Yeah. Well, it was Aden back then, or Aden. A-D-E-N. I think maybe it's Aden. But in Aden, Nilsen saw actual dead bodies. Even though he was a cook, he was still required to go on patrol. And since Aden was a British colony on the verge of independence, the city was littered with bodies. I think the guy Russ Coffey compared it to like modern day Afghanistan, but like Afghanistan at its height.
And you knew he was the cook because he had a pot on his head and they gave him a ladle to fight with. And that's not appropriate. I think he deserved a lot more equipment.
Yes.
But Nilsen said that these dead bodies that he saw, these war casualties, didn't actually do anything for him because any sort of visible mutilation spoiled the fantasy, because Nilsen liked his men clean. However, although it didn't fuel his fantasies, Russ Coffey postulates that this is where Nilsen became desensitized to dead bodies. After that, it wasn't a stretch for the fantasies of unconsciousness to cross over into a place of pure death.
Okay.
Well, a part of Dennis Nilsen's thing is that he wanted to show how unaffected he was. And that made him manly, and that's what made him good at the army. And he would talk about it all the time, about how he's like, none of these bodies bother me. And they're all like, please stop. Please stop, Dennis.
So it's literally like he wasn't bothered, but he wasn't aroused.
Yes.
It was like totally just a neutral, like, I'm just going about my day, like looking at a mailbox.
It's just whatever. But that's the thing, he saw those bodies, and that sort of crossed back into the memory of his grandfather. And so, so that memory is starting to come back more and more, and it's starting to meet the dead bodies and the unconscious fantasies halfway. So this is a slow, like all of this stuff like slowly comes together over a period of years.
And this is still his teenage years, right?
He's in his early 20s at this point. I think it's like 21, 22.
Right.
And death almost came to Dennis Nilsen in Aden. One night, while drunk, he hailed a cab and passed out in the back seat. He was awoken by a blow to the head, and then, while he was stunned, he was stripped of his clothes and bundled into the trunk of the cab.
Boing. So sexy for him.
And when Nilsen woke up, he fumbled around in the trunk until he found the cold metal of a car jack. He grabbed it, waited until the cab driver opened the hatch, and when he did, Nilsen clobbered him, took the cab driver's clothes, and ran away back to the base.
Is that story real?
Well, there's no proof of it, but at least Russ Coffey says that there was probably an element of truth to it. And because I think and he said with a lot of Dennis Nilsen stories, like there's an element of truth to all of it. So it could be true, but it might also not be.
So the thing, we know he passed out in the back of a cab.
We know he passed out in the back of a cab and had an altercation with a cab driver.
Okay. Because he would also do that all the time.
Yeah.
And he's in a war zone. But they would talk about how brazen he would be. He'd leave the group that was drinking at night and go drink further. And then his MO was to get into a cab and pass out just in case someone would suck his dick while he's asleep. Thinking that everyone's going to do this and they can't leave him alone. Like it's a cheese plate in an office kitchen. We're just like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, but this, who knows? Who knows?
Now, Nilsen, whether it happened or not, he just popped this experience right into the old spank bank.
Okay.
And he fantasized constantly about the old taxi driver fondling him while he was passed out. Another thing that helped solidify this connection between sex and death was a painting by Theodore Jericho named The Raft of Medusa. In the painting, about a dozen men, both living and dead, are lost at sea on a rickety raft about to sink.
Okay.
But what got Dennis going specifically was an old man and a young boy in the foreground. The young boy was dead, and coincidentally, the only one naked. That boy was draped across the old man's lap, and the old man sat with one arm over the young boy, resigned to his fate, almost bored.
Yep, just him and this young dead boy and his magic sponge, just sitting, waiting for Medusa to turn them all into stone. I understand.
Maybe the father, maybe he was mourning the loss of a child.
Maybe.
I think that would be the normal interpretation, don't you think?
Quite possibly.
Whatever, Kissel. You fucking lame-o.
That would be.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, but his dick and balls were out.
Well, you can be sad naked. I don't know.
Some of my sadder times have been naked.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But also, most of my happier times.
Now, this painting made something click in Dennis Nilsen's brain, and the fantasies only got weirder from there, because now he has that picture of old man, naked young boy. And while all of this may seem gratuitous, talking about all of these fantasies, especially what we're about to get into, it's all very important to the understanding of Dennis Nilsen and to his eventual career as a serial killer. What brought him to the point of his first murder?
It's his shallow view of his fantasies and how important his fantasies became to him over reality. And it's important to see that the build of his fantasy world became like, in most people, it's 10% of your existence is your fantasy world, and for him, it became an all-consuming, had to make it real.
Yeah. Right.
So in June of 1967, Nilsen was transferred again to what is now the United Arab Emirates.
Okay.
This is right when the UAE struck oil. So this place was, it was getting rich real fast.
All right.
Now here, Nilsen had his first homosexual experience, although it was far from what you would call an ethical one.
Okay.
Apparently, in this posting, local teenage boys were assigned to clean the rooms of British officers.
Record scratch right there.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? Like make them strapping young men. Make them men.
There-
Have a men cleaning the rooms instead of
Lot
a bunch of
problems.
vulnerable boys.
UAE, they used to do, as of 2 years ago, child jockey racing,
Yes.
which is literally slavery, and it was horrible. And now they replaced them with little machines, little robots.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, since Nilsen was an NCO corporal, he had a room and a boy all to himself. And these boys regularly sold their affections to the officers, if you know what I mean.
What do you mean? They laugh at their jokes?
I don't know. Let's not go too deep into it.
So one day, Nilsen made his move. However, it probably did not end in penetrative sex, as that wasn't really Nilsen's bag. On the other hand, it's hard to pin down exactly what Nilsen's bag actually was, because this is about the time the mirror came into play.
You know what? Can I do a yada, yada, yada here? Can we just yada,
Nope,
yada,
this
yada?
is all
No.
extremely important.
All right.
No, with this next bit, this is the problem. Because I remember when I was a kid, right? When I was 14 years old, I think a part of what became the reason why I am who I am is that they put the computer in my room when I was 13 years old, and I had a lock on that door. And that there was a time in there, what I would say is not anywhere close to this, but my masturbation world became very ornate in a short period of time.
Emphasis on short.
Roast mode.
Roast mode.
Now, as we said, Nilsen had a private room. So when he had a day off, Nilsen would lock his door and spend the afternoon masturbating while he stared at himself in the mirror.
Like Buffalo Bill.
Yes.
Jeez.
And then he took it further. He realized that if he could position the mirror in just the right way, he could hide his own head and imagine his own body as the body of another man, while his own head would be someone else completely. So he had two people going.
He also made his hand, he sat on his left hand until it was numb. He called it the stranger.
Yeah. But he would do that thing where he'd build it out and he'd say that the guy in the mirror was somebody else, which I imagine really works, especially if you're a young gay man in the military and you don't know what to do and you don't know how to express yourself to other people, and it works. But it's just how it turns.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, because he said he never imagined that the head had a face. He just imagined it as a dirty old man with gray hair. And Nilsen would switch back and forth. Sometimes he'd play the boy, and sometimes he'd play the old man.
Yeah, like an old-timey vaudeville routine, but instead of laughter, it ends in cum all over yourself.
Intriguing.
It's just, just an old man just sit there. It's like, show him again, do it again for me, do the dance. And then he's like, oh no, I'm sleeping. I couldn't possibly answer you. Meanwhile, his barracks mate next door is hearing the whole thing through the wall.
Huh. And the whole time prog rock is playing, huh?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. We're about to get into what Nilsen's musical tastes were at this time.
Okay.
Well, after he kind of got tired of the mirror game, he went even further, and he started bringing costumes and makeup into the mix. He would put talc on his face to give it a white appearance, then smear charcoal under his eyes to give it a dark, hollow look. He then put holes in his t-shirt to represent gunshot wounds and mixed red food coloring with saffron to make blood. In effect, Nilsen was making himself dead.
So he was the corpse that he was masturbating to.
Just wait a second.
This is very elaborate.
Oh, it gets even more.
Okay.
Oh, it gets even more elaborate. This is just the setup.
Okay.
He'd then lie down and stare at himself, slack-jawed in the mirror until he started drooling, and that's when his imagination would take him away.
And you see, and like what we learned from LeVar Burton, that a book is an invitation to the world.
Yeah.
And that your imagination can take you anywhere.
Yeah, some places maybe you don't want to go, but...
He imagined himself to be a French dissident in World War II, shot, killed, and left in the woods to rot by an SS officer. He would then be found by an old hermit living in the woods who would drag French Dennis's body back to his shack.
This'll make for good scrubbing. Gotta bring him back to the shack. Nothing better than nice, fresh French boy just laying nice and still.
And he's like, say some more. Tell it again.
There, the old hermit would strip French Dennis naked and talk to him as he would an old friend.
Hey, you remember when the Golden State Warriors are really fucking kicking ass right now, huh? Yeah, they're really doing well. You know what I would like? Watch that Wild Wild Country on Netflix. If you check it out, it's very good. Very good. Is it Rajneesh? Very good. Sheila was the brains of the operation. I came.
All right.
And after that, the hermit would wash him, tie his penis, and put wadding up his anus. French Dennis would then be thrown into a grave and buried. But later, the old man wouldn't be able to help himself, so he'd go and dig French Dennis back up and take him back to the shack, where the hermit would masturbate French Dennis's dead body until his penis, and only his penis, would come back to life to shoot a load all over the hermit.
Hey, Dennis, what you doing in there? It's 5 minutes till dinner.
Hey, buddy.
Come on, buddy.
Yeah, because he was, this whole time, his barracks mates were thinking he was just taking an afternoon nap.
The saddest thing is he's the chef. And that is really, the whole thing is disgusting, but it's his own masturbation. He can do whatever he wants. Never should have killed people. But I just don't do you want more soup? No. I'm good.
Hey, Dennis, why are you winking all the time? Every time you're handing out all these French bread pizzas.
Yeah. Sounds like a little practical joke there.
So from the Middle East, Dennis was transferred back to Germany, where he discovered one of his lifelong passions, filmmaking.
Oh, okay. So he's a filmmaker now.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
He bought an 8mm camera on a whim and started filming everything.
Well, that's good. Nothing creepy is filmed with an 8mm, so that's a good sign.
Obviously, yeah, no stag
Yeah,
films
no,
were ever
definitely
only
not.
filmed at an 8mm. But his job was, so he got really into cameras, but there's something about camera guys where if you don't actually become a director, because he became obsessed, and then it became everything became a fucking project, and he had to micromanage all forms of shooting everybody, and he would do it for hours and hours, and there's just something about those guys where if you don't move into actual professional film work, that it's why do you always have to freeze my soul onto this film? Why is it so important to you?
It kind of makes sense because he's disassociating himself with society. We see it all the time now, people filming someone who is in peril with their phones as opposed to helping, so that actually kind of makes sense that he would go into that as a profession, or at least a hobby.
It's definitely a hobby, and he went even further than that as far as depersonalization, because he'd just routinely make his friends pretend like they were dead. Just lie there. Just pretend like you're shot and dead. So just lie there for a little while.
And he'd film them for a really long time. And then he had one guy, that lonely private who had no friends, to play dead for him multiple occasions, where he'd dress him up like a dead body, and he'd film him for an uncomfortable period of time. And then Nilsen would take the game footage back to his apartment late at night, and he'd watch it, first pretending like I'm doing homework, I'm trying to be a better filmmaker, and then he'd have to leave to go jerk off, and then come back, and then eventually the dude that was shooting him was like, this is weird, please stop filming me, I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, I don't know, man. I think that guy might have been easy money. Just got to play dead for 20 minutes.
He's not making money.
Oh, he's not paying him, huh?
No, he's
yeah,
not
you want
paying
to pay
him,
your
no.
actors.
Yeah, this isn't SAG.
Oh, well, you want to pay your actors.
No, besides that unpleasant incident, Nilsen paints this time in his life as one of his happiest. But a fellow NCO who emailed author Russ Coffey in 2005 dispelled a lot of what Dennis had to say about himself.
Okay.
The first thing the NCO had to say about Nilsen was that he had very, very poor hygiene, although he didn't go into detail as to why he said he had poor hygiene.
Hence the UK version of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes.
Second thing he mentioned was that Nilsen couldn't hold his liquor. And the third was Nilsen's strange taste in pets. This is when the pet thing really started. The first thing he bought was a mynah bird. You ever heard of a mynah bird?
No, what's a mynah bird?
They're kind of like parrots. They can mimic human speech, but it sounds really creepy.
You know what a mynah bird is? If you try to take it, I say that's a mina bird. That's that's kind of like a nacho cheese. Like what do you call it? Not cheese. It's not yours.
very,
Nacho
very
cheese. What do you call a bird?
It's very
that's
cute.
mine. It's a mina bird. Or like, don't try to take it.
This is the kind of family entertainment that allowed us to be the most listened to podcast in 10 states.
That's right.
That's right. So when he bought the mina bird, he didn't buy a cage. He just let it loose in his room. But he was in Germany now. He didn't have a private room. So he had a roommate that had to deal with all of this shit.
So his roommate is living like the living room in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 with a bird just flying around, but unfortunately it never dies.
Yes. Well, Nilsen's superior officer made him return the mina bird the next day. He's like, this is ridiculous. You can't do that.
What do you think he said to his officer?
It's mina bird.
But it's mina bird.
But it's
Wow,
mina bird.
they say I'm not needed on the show.
So Nilsen, after he returned the mina bird, he bought a mud turtle that he named Napoleon the 14th.
Oh, that's fun.
Napoleon the 14th was an homage to the Dr. Demento mainstay band known for this novelty hit.
What?
Ben, you might know this one.
He knew Demento, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if he knew Demento specifically.
Okay.
I think Demento. I think he was just an American guy. I don't know if they had Demento over in the UK.
Okay, all right.
So here's that song.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha. To the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time, and I'll be happy to...
You know, this is why I don't conceal and carry. Because I would have immediately shot myself in the head.
It is that song is very creepy if taken seriously.
Yes.
I mean, like if not taken seriously, it's fun because I remember as a little kid loving that song.
Yeah, me too.
And then if you think about it now, as someone like Dennis Nilsen, that song playing while he's washing a dead body in his bathtub,
Right.
and you're like, oh yeah, I wish they did. I wish they had done that.
But that is some... He would listen to that like it was music, right?
Yeah,
like it was like Zeppelin.
Well, I think he thought it was funny.
He did think it was funny.
He definitely
Yeah,
thought
it was
okay.
a funny song.
Yeah.
At the
It is a
time,
funny
Dr.
song,
Demento
yeah.
was very popular. Yeah, people love novelty songs.
No,
It's
I mean,
not the
that was
same.
introduced by Dr. Demento, and then Dr. Demento came back and was like, that was a goofy tune. You know, like that would be fun.
You know, they hit the top of the charts in 1966.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, gold record.
Man, what happened in 66? Were people on drugs?
Yes.
So according to the NCO, Nilsen kept Napoleon the 15th in a stinky tub under his bed and would feed it raw chunks of meat. And he'd then challenge anyone who came into his room to try to take meat from the turtle.
It's cute. But then he'd do like a joke. He'd do like a joke. He's like, maybe you don't want to feed her dead meat. You want something fresh. That's what you go. You young lady, you'll have something fresh. Because that was the other thing with Nilsen, is that he was an almost professional level cockblock. When he would do, because that was his whole thing, was that because he couldn't have relationships with any other men and that it was around him and he couldn't figure out what to do, is that he would just ruin the chances of any dude that was trying to close it with a woman at the end of the night. And so when his roommate would bring chicks home, he'd be like, look at my stinky fucking turtle, and like pulling it out and like feeding it fresh meat and shit until she left.
Now, Nilsen said he left the army after 9 years because he couldn't see a place in it for a homosexual such as himself. And while the sentiment may have been true, it wasn't the actual reason why Nilsen left the army.
Okay.
In reality, Nilsen was asked to leave.
He was.
Oh, yes. He had applied for a further service extension, but was denied because of his bad hygiene and a fistfight he had with his roommate about the smell coming from Napoleon the 14th.
You know, that is always interesting when you're like, I want to die for this country. And the country is like, we don't want you.
We can't
don't
have
want
you
your
anymore.
corpse.
Yes, please leave. But yeah, his whole thing was he explained it away, saying that the reason why he actually chose to leave was because no one understands a gay man in the army. And so he made it immediately how he was a victim.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
about how like it was about his lifestyle.
Well, I'm sure to some degree that is accurate.
Well, I mean, I don't...
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, but that wasn't the... He was trying to
No, I know
sign
that
up for
wasn't-
an extension.
Right,
but-
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, he just used it. He
Right,
used,
right, right.
you know, he did that shitty thing that people do where they use actual prejudice that does actually exist and they apply it to themselves to excuse their shitty behavior.
Sure.
So, in other words, once again, Dennis Nilsen painted himself as a tragic romantic. He was put upon by the world at large, when in reality, he was actually just a weird, annoying Dr. Demento fan that nobody actually liked.
Okay.
And that narrative seemed to continue when Nilsen left the army and became a police officer in London.
What?
I mean, Yeah, dude. I mean, because he left, right? He went back home after getting out of the army, and you go to they have a thing called like the United Army career advice place, like essentially like where you go like a guidance counselor for the army, because he'd been in the army since he was 16 years old. He came out 11 years later. He goes to them being like, what should I do? And the first thing they said is like, you should be a prison guard. And it's just like, oh. Because I guess the first thing is like, you love to wrestle a man against his will. You love to smell his feces. You love to smell his feces. And he's like, you do, you're right. That does make sense. They're like, well, maybe you could be a police officer because it takes a little bit less upper arm strength.
Yeah, that's exactly who I want as my peace officer. Well, I mean, so it's interesting. Dr. Demento, that's the thing about, like, the fans, it was Weird Al Yankovic and Dennis Nilsen. So it's like, it's interesting that, with us as well, all of our listeners, we have a diverse swath of people as well. I just hope that we have more Weird Al Yankovic than...
yeah, we want more creatives.
Yeah, more creatives.
Yeah, and, the police, the guys that served with Dennis Nilsen, they also knew that there was something off about this guy. Because Dennis Nilsen's narrative that, they didn't like me because I was gay, when in reality he was just a creepy weirdo, that continued into the police. But one of his fellow officers said after it came out that an ex-cop had been arrested for multiple murders, the ex-cop said, quote,
if it's true he's an ex-copper, my money's on it being Dennis Nilsen.
Really?
Yeah, they knew.
Okay.
But it's the thing is that Nilsen didn't ever actually do anything horrible when he was a cop. He said that his service was pretty boring. Like, he just kind of went out and like shook his truncheon.
How long was he a cop for?
Like 9 months.
Oh, 9. Okay,
Yeah,
so pretty short stint there.
Pretty short stint.
Okay.
But with Nilsen, it was more of a vibe. Like, his mentor was an officer named Peter Wellstead, who made it a point to take all his new recruits to the morgue on their first day, get them used to life on the streets. And here's where it's going to get creepy again. Mm-hmm. Nilsen said he saw a 12-year-old girl on a slab whom he thought looked like a boy. Nilsen watched as an assistant, an old man with a hunchback, wheeled her around the room. Ugh. And again, Nilsen's fantasy was not about himself. It was about the old man. You get it?
No, but I understand what you're saying.
I mean,
so he puts himself in the shoes of the old man.
Yeah.
Is
It's
that
the
correct?
same thing. He keeps accidentally finding himself in the same scenario where an old man is moving a limp body back and forth, and it makes him pop a boner instantly.
I have to say, like, most people go through their whole life never seen an old man around a corpse, and evidently, like, he's seen it like a dozen times now, which is, it's a little strange, of course, but...
Be the change you want to see in the world.
I suppose.
Now, it's rumored that Nilsen was asked to leave at 9 months after he was caught masturbating over a body in the morgue. But that is unsubstantiated. That's more of a rumor than anything.
Oh, Jesus.
Nilsen said he left the force because, again, he couldn't see a place for himself there. So he got a job at the job center where he would work until his arrest as a boring old civil servant. He went to the job center, give me a job, and they said, you can work here.
I like that he took it literally. That's the job center. That's where you work.
Well, yeah, and I mean, he had the patience for it, and his patience will also be described later on as he would sit with the bodies and very specifically cleave them of their meat.
Okay.
But before Nilsen left the police, he was indirectly introduced to the London gay scene by the homophobic comments of a fellow officer.
Yeah, sometimes homophobia helps. Because a police officer, at one point they were all hanging out, he's like, yeah, if you want to hang out with the other fancies, you go down to this area of town. And he was like, oh, really? Let my fingers do the walking and then my penis do the talking.
Well, isn't that crazy? So he found out that way, huh?
Yeah. The officer told Nilsen that you better stay away from Earl's Court because that's where all the gays are.
Wait, it's called Earl's Cork?
Earl's Court.
Court. Okay, I thought it was Earl's Court. Well, either way, Earl's Court. Okay.
Yeah, so naturally that night, Nilsen just made a beeline straight to Earl's Court.
Oh, okay.
And that's where he found bars like the Black Cap, the Golden Lion, and the Champion, not to mention the Pig and Whistle.
Oh!
Which was said to be the best spot for Sunday lunchtime cruising in London.
There's a Pig and Whistle here in New York City. I've been there for brunch. Very tasty.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, how was the cruising?
It was good, man. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I bet you're quite a bit of chum for a bunch of lads out there.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I do very well.
No, I could see a bunch of the little what are those things? The remoras? What are the things that suck onto a shark?
Yeah, remora.
Yeah, I could see a bunch of those all over here. A bunch of little tinier guys.
Hey, I've been to many many a gay bar with my brothers. I went to one called The Cock many years ago, after hours. They didn't have any more beer. They stopped serving beer.
But what did they have?
Oh my God! Well, they were engaged and they were having fun there. I'll tell you that.
So while drinking in the Champion one night, Dennis met an 18-year-old named David Galashan. The two went home together, and after just a single night, Nilsen impulsively asked the boy if he would be interested in getting an apartment together.
Oh my goodness.
And so the two found a place and moved into 195 Melrose Avenue, where Nilsen would commit the bulk of his 15 murders.
The kid said yes?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. He was a bit of an impulsive kid as well.
Okay.
Not surprisingly, though, things between Dennis and Twinkle, as Dennis would call him, didn't work out. There were multiple problems, but one of the biggest was their difference in music tastes.
Dennis Nilsen becomes sort of like a version of like Patrick Bateman.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
He becomes obsessed with music.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
but like
this-
only the bands that he likes, like
Yes.
Huey Lewis for Psycho.
Yeah, it's
or
only
American Psycho.
it's only Huey, but it's certain like frequencies just hit him, and it's a
Okay.
very specific kind of music.
All right.
See, Nilsen, he'd moved on from novelty hits and was big into classical music and prog rock, specifically the sounds of guys like Mike Oldfield and Rick Wakeman of the band Yes.
Oh.
So I know you're not familiar with Rick Wakeman.
I know Yes, I know the band.
Oh yeah, but but he was specifically into Rick Wakeman's solo work.
Okay.
yes, very specific.
So he's right.
So here's an example of Wakeman's style to get you into the mind of the most notorious serial killer in British history behind Jack the Ripper. This one's called Bombay Duck.
Just Castlevania, man. Like that is
I kind of love it. I listened to that whole album last night. It's really
Are
fun.
there any words, or is it all electronica?
It's just an instrumental. It's keyboard.
Instrumental.
He's
That's
Rick
a keyboard.
Wakeman's
Okay.
a keyboardist.
Yeah, Moog. He's like part of that Moog era, and also just washing a bunch of dead bodies to that.
Yeah, that's
strangling them to it.
It's not bad. It's just like it's not like I listen to music to relate to it, to unwind. Yeah, it's like
in my mind, it's like, because what do we view? The famous serial killer that we know that was a fanboy was Richard Ramirez and AC/DC.
Exactly.
And back in the day, it's like we could see that AC/DC, like you can see listening to fucking like TNT, I guess. Like I know that's one of their sillier hits, but you listen to Highway to Hell the first time it comes out, and you're just like murdering a bunch of people. You could see the up tempo, but there's something about the it's like it's very strange to accompany murder.
it literally seems like a pie shop on Thanksgiving, where they're just like, we're gonna get these pies out. We have thousands of pie orders.
Well, that's only a small sampling of Rick Wakeman's work.
But that does seem to be kind of that's in the wheelhouse of what we listened to before. Obviously,
Yeah. And Rick Wakeman, like he did like these big concept albums. Like he did a big concept album about like King Arthur. He did a concept album about the wives of Henry VIII.
Cool. Okay.
And a couple others. Like it's actually pretty cool
He's
stuff. I
obviously
really
very
like
talented,
Rick Wakeman. Now, while that may not make much sense, Rick Wakeman might not make much sense as far as like listening to the songs like we did with Richard Ramirez, listening to AC/DC and all that. But maybe this song, Nilsen's favorite song, might give you a little bit more insight.
So this is the all-time favorite.
This is Dennis Nilsen's all-time favorite song.
Okay.
This is the soundtrack to almost every one of his murders.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a song, and we're going to listen to just a little bit of it to get into Dennis Nilsen's head just a little. This is Oh Superman by Laurie Anderson.
Oh.
Oh, Superman. Oh, John. Oh, Mom and Dad.
Ooh, it's good. weird. It's kind of good.
I love this song.
That was actually on my pill mix when I went through my weird phase when I was into fucking smoking a whole joint, eating a couple of hydrocodones in fucking college. That was like one of the songs I would sit and stare at my ceiling to.
Yeah, I love that you call that a phase. How long have you been doing that for now?
Oh, I've stopped. I don't do pills anymore.
Yeah, he stopped the pills. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. No, those will get you.
Well, I mean, that song, it's 8.5 minutes long.
That's right, yeah.
And that kind of progression it carries on for the entire 8.5 minutes.
It does seem like something Harley Quinn would sing.
I guess so,
It's got a Joker, like the ha-ha stuff in the background.
Interesting that you took that away from that. But it does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Twinkle hated all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Twinkle's like an 18-year-old kid.
What's a Twinkle like?
Just stuff. Bay City Rollers.
Like
Just not
different kind
that.
of music. Okay, more popular maybe.
Yeah, just a lot more popular stuff. This is like prog rock's pretty highbrow.
Okay.
Eventually, Twinkle left Dennis for an older antiques dealer, leaving Dennis all alone. And the only things that Dennis got out of this relationship, and this is a pretty good haul. You got a cute little mutt named Bleep, a cat named Dee Dee, and a private garden, which would be put to horrific use about a year later. Now, some have said that Twinkle leaving was the catalyst for Dennis's murder spree, but that's just the lazy answer. It completely misses the point of what drives men like Nilsen. The point is that they're attracted to dead people.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like,
Yes.
it's like,
Okay.
I
see
that's
now.
because the living are fine and they'll work in a pinch because like Nilsen had a string of summer flings before the killing began, which were, by the accounts of the flings, relatively normal, but that's not where the desire really lies. It's not like he killed
You
for...
have to get dead people to come.
Yeah.
It's not a good combination.
it's
and
just-
you need to tell somebody. You need to just say, hey, this is like an idea. Hey, spitball it here. I think I only come when I see dead people. Like a
see.
Haley Joel Osment, but grown up.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not good.
The Sixth Sense. This is only on this show does that sentence get uttered. Like that's not what got him upset. The problem is he wanted to have sex with dead people. Okay, well, there we go.
Exactly. Yeah, because he wasn't. It wasn't because that's why the book is called "Killing for Company." They say that Dennis Nilsen.
Oh,
because,
I get it now.
Because that's what Brian Masters. That's what his whole thesis was. That he killed for company. He killed because he was lonely. But I don't think that's the case at all.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, a part of it's also what is the Jeffrey Dahmer excuse, which they said is that I killed them because they were going to leave.
Yeah.
Because everybody in my life leaves. Because no one ever stays for the long haul forever. But the problem is the dead body doesn't either, because in 3 weeks you got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now, really, with Nilsen, it was just a slow build of mental illness, the escalation of fantasy, and, of course, also loneliness that resulted in the events of December 30th, 1978, when Dennis Nilsen committed his first murder. And loneliness did play a factor in it, but these guys always put it as the number one factor, when in fact, it's about number 3.
Okay.
Now, on the day before New Year's Eve, Dennis Nilsen met Stephen Holmes in the Cricklewood Arms pub located in Cricklewood.
Oh, I like the Cricklewood Arms Pub. That's a fun name, Cricklewood. Cricklewood.
Now, Holmes was only 14 and had ducked into the pub after a concert to warm himself up. He was on his way home. But Nilsen chicken-hawked the boy immediately and invited him back to his place for a few more drinks. Now, nothing overtly sexual seemed to happen because the boy wasn't gay. The two apparently just drank and passed out. Because that's another thing that people always say about Dennis Nilsen's victims, is like they were all street homosexuals.
Okay.
But it was a mix.
Yeah, he just sometimes, it's a buddy. It's like a thing where he'd meet somebody, they'd hit it off, they'd get hammered. Again, we were talking about it's like a 10 p.m. curfew at the party. It's like, let's go have a couple at my house.
Sure.
You can listen to my hi-fi records where you're going to have to listen to them in headphones. And that's like my big thing about audiophiles, where they kind of creep me out, where it's like if you go to somebody's house and the only way to listen to the albums that they want you to listen to is over your headphones, they're playing something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I never do that.
No,
the
don't
headphones
do it.
albums, those are for me.
Okay.
But Nilsen woke up before Stephen Holmes. Nilsen said he stared at the boy and thought about how nice it would be if he stayed for New Year's Eve. But Nilsen knew it was more likely that as soon as he woke up, the boy would be out of the door. And so Nilsen decided he was going to make him stay.
Uh-oh.
He picked up a necktie, wrapped it around the boy's throat, and strangled him. But this only knocked Stephen out. So Nilsen finished him off by shoving the boy's head in a bucket of water until the bubbles stopped coming. And Nilsen said as he was doing it, he flashed back to the fantasy of the old man in the cabin. But with Stephen Holmes, Nilsen was the old man, while the boy was Nilsen. And in thinking this way, Nilsen could achieve his fantasies of being both the perpetrator and the victim by using his victims as a surrogate.
Circuit complete.
In his mind, murder was the only way that the fantasy could truly be achieved, making him admittedly more complicated than your average serial killer, but in the end, no different in the motivations.
Very, very complex and confusing stuff there.
Yes, he is. Obviously, this is it's not a simple problem.
No, it is not. So this is the first murder, and now what age is he here?
About 32. Yeah,
all right.
I mean, this guy completely overcomplicates everything because a lot of these guys, like when they talk, because serial killers, what it is that it's fantasy and reality coming together. And a lot of these guys, the fantasy is so simple. Like the fantasy, like with a guy like Jerry Brudos, like or like Leonard Lake. The fantasy is kidnap a woman, keep her in a room, and she's essentially my sex slave. It's 1, 2, 3. It's very simple.
Much more complex.
But Dennis Nilsen, it's this huge web that makes him appear to be more complicated and deep than he actually is, but he's not.
Does he feel like he is killing himself?
No, it's the opposite. There's a thing where he does do that a little bit, but mostly it's about, I think it can be boiled down simply because he talks about it later on where he said the ultimate thrill in interviews while he's in jail. He said the ultimate thrill was the lifting of the dead body to the tub because it was the limpness of somebody that was completely under his control. So it is a control thing. It's just so extreme. And he is the most product killer of product killers that we've really covered.
Definitely a product killer. Yeah.
The murders were quick. He did not like to do it. It was just to get the body.
And that's Dahmer-esque too, right?
Well, there were a couple times where he did do it for a reason, but we'll get into that in the next episode.
All right.
So after killing Holmes, Nilsen hung the body upside down from the rafters and washed it clean. He then wrapped him in a curtain, put the body in his bed, and went back to sleep next to it to recover from his hangover.
Oh my God.
The next morning, though, Nilsen tried to put the body under the floorboards, but rigor mortis had set in, so Nilsen couldn't fit the body inside.
Jesus.
So after Dennis finally got the body under the floorboards, he only brought it back up once, out of curiosity, before finally deciding to get rid of it in August of that year, 8 months after the murder.
What did now, is this an apartment or a home?
It's an apartment, but it's the ground floor of the apartment.
Well, doesn't that smell? I mean,
he got deodorants and things like that, and people who went to his apartment said it had a musty smell.
That is being polite.
Yes.
That's being polite. His apartment was smelly. They always said that he smelled. The apartment was disgusting. He would bury it. That's what he thought would cover it up, is that he would take sticks of deodorant and he would bury it inside of the body. Like he threw it down on the rafters thinking it was going to cover it up. But this was just the first one.
Yeah.
And so this was him burying it up. And they also talk about how like when he looked at the body again, there was a part of him that did believe that the body would either disappear or that he would be alive.
Yeah,
and then he would open it up and it would all be over. And the scenario would be over. And then it wasn't, because he killed somebody. So it sat there and it ruined everyone's day.
Yeah, degree is about temperature. You know, that is what the deodorant for, not like first degree murder. Second degree murder, we cover it up. It's about like 98 degree weather. You won't be sweating. He got it all wrong.
And so when Nilsen finally decided he was going to get rid of the body,
good Lord,
he built a bonfire in his backyard and burned the body until there was nothing recognizably human left.
What?
And he threw a tire on the fire to hide the smell. And it only gets weirder from there. So join us next week for the conclusion of Dennis Nilsen.
All right.
And the other 14 murders.
All right. So he's cracked, I guess, the murder seal here.
Yes, he has.
All right. Well, wow.
Yes.
Great, interesting stuff. What a crazy character here.
It's a very bizarre story.
Yes, it's a very, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It's very bizarre, and it became a part of the UK true crime lexicon. This is one of the first UK serial killers that we've really covered in terms of like delve deep into one of these guys, one of their super famous guys, besides Old Jack and Fred and Rose West, who were also very disgusting.
Oof, yeah, they were gross.
But the second half of this shows his full descent and complete madness, and then we'll go through the very famous way that he was caught.
Okay. How long was this? How long are we going to be talking here? Is it about a 10-year span of the
It's
crime?
like 5.
5 years?
5 years.
Oh, my goodness. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening. Dennis Nilsen, it's a fascinating case study in people, you got to get your help out there.
Get your help.
All of us have our help.
We all have our help,
And,
yes.
it only does so much, but...
Join a softball team.
Hey, all right.
That's a good way to get it out there, like a kickball team, one of those things. Go to an embroidery class.
Yes, well, maybe tomorrow I'm going to go to on Saturday I'm going to go to a World War II reenactment.
Ooh.
So that's something fun to do too.
Mm-hmm.
Can I guess what side you'll be on, or...
I'm not going to reenact, Henry. Good Lord. All right.
So, and also remember, you don't have to get to the point of almost being a serial killer to get help for your mental illness, because this is Mental Illness Awareness Month.
Hey, all right.
And of course, we all get help for our shit, and it's helped us out a lot. And thank you to everybody who gets a hold of us and say that we helped you get help too. So yeah, take care of yourself out there. Don't be a Nilsen.
Don't be a Nilsen. I like
Don't
that.
be a Nilsen. Be a Wilson. Willie Nelson.
A Wilson? Yeah, there we go. Wilson Phillips as well, or Wilson from Tool Time. I refuse to call it Home Improvement. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for giving to our Patreon. Without you, none of this is possible. Go and listen to our episodes. Henry and I have been doing some very fun interviews, and we have a great interview coming up for you guys this week. I think you guys are really going to like it. Speaking of evil genius, we should be speaking with that producer there. And let's see. Anything else, Marcus? What do we want to talk about?
Be sure and go listen to all the other shows on the Last Podcast Network.
Yes.
Go check out Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, page 7, Movie Time with the Mads. What else we got over there? We got a whole bunch. We got The Story Must Be Told. We got Brand New. We got The Adventures of Danny and Mike.
Check that out. That's brand new. Check that out. They're ready and raring to go. They've had a podcast going for a while, but now they're a part of our network, and they should be doing some stellar shows in the future.
Absolutely. And we just found out we are the #1 podcast in the country, so I want to thank all of you for that from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. We are the #1 podcast in 10 states.
10 states.
Better than, and including my home state of Wisconsin, Minnesota's in there, Alaska, Florida, parts of Texas, half of Texas.
Half of Texas. Actually, we're either #1 in the Midwest and #2 in the West
and the South.
and the South.
That's right. So thank you all so much for that. What a nice, pleasant surprise that was.
It was really amazing.
And the guy who wrote the article did not like the evidence he found, but they were honest and
he tended to bury the lead a little bit about.
But that's okay.
He did definitely talk about all the podcasts that he was surprised weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
on top of the charts, which
and
was kind of fun.
definitely showed one of the things that's wrong with this country right now when he only talked about how we're all different instead of talking about how we're all the same.
That's right.
And what we all share. Because last podcast on the left, whether the state be red, blue, or purple.
Absolutely.
People dig us.
Absolutely.
And we thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. That was such a nice pick me up.
We have a show coming up in San Diego.
Yeah,
we have tickets
that's
that are
right.
available for purchase. It will be at the Balboa Theater on Friday, July 20th at 10:30 p.m. And please come. We'll be there during Comic-Con. If you're there for Comic-Con, come check us out. We will be at Comic-Con doing last stream on the left shows.
Yep.
Live for AdultSwim.com, so you're going to see our fucking asses around. So we're there. It's going to be fun as shit.
I can't
wait.
wait.
We're back on the road soon.
This is the big Comic-Con, right? This was where it began, right?
Do you think we could get Worf to come on one of our streams?
Worf from Star Trek?
Yeah, he'll be. I bet he'll be there.
Yeah, dude, I'll dress up like a Klingon. I'll get him over there.
A lot of those guys are really busy trying to get laid.
Yeah.
So they don't want to do as much stuff.
Trying to get some money there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We have nothing to give them.
No, nothing. All right, everyone, hail yourselves. Thank you all so much.
Follow us on social media at Twitter at Henry Loves You, at Marcus Parks, at Ben Kissel. Follow us on Instagram at Dr. Fantasy, at Marcus Parks, at Ben Kissel, the #1. And follow Last Podcast and all of the bullshits at LP on the left.
All right, hail yourselves, everyone.
Hail Satan!
Elgin.
Hail me.
And a Magustalations one and all.
Yes.
Listen to some prog rock. Relax.
Relax.
Nothing relaxing about it.